Welcome to a new hour of CBS Sports HQ. I am Amanda Guerra with you. We will soon be joined by Kanell and Bryant McFadden here. We are gearing up for Week 10 in college football, including the SEC on CBS, and it's a good one. The only two ranked teams going at one another. We have Auburn and Texas A&M.
We have another college football doubleheader on CBS this Saturday, beginning with Army and Air Force in the early game in Arlington, Texas. And in the 3:30 slot, it's a big-time matchup in the SEC West as the Auburn Tigers head to College Station to take on Texas A&M. It's been a resurgent season for both programs after early season setbacks. Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies have a head-to-head win against Alabama, but Brian Harsin and the Tigers are the ones who control their own division fate. And a win this week could help set up a potential division championship game in the season finale at home against Alabama.
I'm very proud of this team. I didn't see anybody on the sideline flinch. Everybody had the right response in some critical moments.
Meanwhile, A&M's season was on life support after back-to-back losses, but the Alabama win has them back in New Year's 6 and potentially even SEC title contention, riding a 3-game winning streak into this Saturday.
Big hole on the left side, 20, 15, 10, A-Chain, touchdown, 6 for 6.
New Year's 6, SEC championship, and potentially even playoff hopes on the line. Saturday, 3:30 Eastern on CBS, Auburn and A&M.
It is going to be a good one. We have Kanell, Bryant McFadden joining us here. We're going to go through 22 games. We're going to try to pace ourselves at a pretty good clip here to get your picks on the next hour. So let's start with number 13 Auburn at number 14 Texas A&M. We had Tom Fornelli on earlier, and he really pointed out, look, you don't know what version of A&M you might get. You don't know what version of Bo Nix you might get here. So the Aggies, they're favored at home by 4.5. The total's 49. What's your play?
I'm going to go Auburn in the under. Okay. I'm going to go longer than that. So I look at this game, and I think Fornelli made a great point because both these teams have been incredibly up and down all season, especially with the quarterbacks, because everybody remembers most recently what Zach Calzada did against Alabama, where all of a sudden he looked like Aaron Rodgers out there slinging the ball and hasn't looked back, but it's been against weaker competition, including this past weekend against South Carolina. Meanwhile, I feel like Auburn is getting more momentum coming into this game against better competition, including last week against Ole Miss, where both sides of the football really got everything going. You saw Bo Nix go, you saw Tank Bigsby go, and you saw the defense hold the high-flying Ole Miss offense in check throughout that game. So I think this game will be a little bit more traditional SEC style. I think you'll see more so than Nix versus Calzada. You'll see Spiller versus Bigsby, the running backs going at it. I think both these defensive lines will establish themselves and really harass these quarterbacks in run games all day long. That's why I like the under here. But I think Auburn's carrying a little bit more momentum against tougher competition, so I like the Tigers here.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Danny. I think the under is the best play for this ball game, and here's why. You talked about the trust issues or concerns that you have with both quarterbacks. Two players that I definitely trust coming from either offense, the running backs, Spiller and Bigsby. Both guys have been running the football extremely well. I think they need to continue to do that for either side to be successful. And I think that should be the game plan for both offenses, be able to generate the ground and pound attack to take some pressure off the quarterback's plate. And I do love both defenses. Both defenses have really performed well over the last few weeks, especially at the line of scrimmage. So me personally, I think the under is the most comfortable line for me. And when you look at the betting trend, the under is 9-2 in the Tigers' last 11 conference ball games, and for A&M, the under is 5-0 in their last 5 games in November. So this game, looking at the offensive structure and looking at the betting trend, the under is the best way to go.
All right, both agree on the under there. Danny also likes Auburn as well to cover that 4.5 there. We get Mizzou at number 1. Georgia heavily favored in this one by 38. The total is 59 and a hook. Are you willing to tackle the 38, or are you looking at the total?
I mean, if I was going to lean, if you forced me to pick one, I would say go ahead and lay the points. But in this situation with Georgia's offense, which still, and I know it was Florida last week and their defense is much better, like I think Georgia's going to put up a big number. But what I know for sure is Missouri's not going to put up a big number. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stay away from the 38, especially in conference opponents, division rival. And I know Missouri isn't good, but I think you'll get their best bet. But Tyler Beatty's coming off a performance, 249 rush yards. He's not going to do that against Georgia. I think Georgia is going to go back to what they've been doing all season long, running the ball with Zamir White and the other stable of running backs, really kind of limiting the exposure of their quarterbacks and relying on that defense, which is historically great at this point. So I think, yeah, maybe you'll see a 42-3 type game, but I'm more likely to see a 35-3 type game, which wouldn't get you the cover, but it would get you under that 59.5.
Georgia's defense has been so good. The under is almost the way to go every weekend. It doesn't matter who they're playing against because they've been so prolific. They haven't allowed more than 13 points, if I'm not mistaken, throughout any ball game so far this season. So, yes, take the under. I'm more concerned about Georgia covering the over-under by themselves because I don't expect to see a lot coming from Missouri's offense. Remember last week against the rival Florida Gators. They had issues just trying to score one touchdown. Better yet, win the ball game. So that has been the storyline for opposing teams playing Georgia. It's not about, hey, can we win? It's about, can we score? Can we get into the end zone? So I expect to see the same thing when you talk about the success coming from Georgia's defense. They're going to punish Missouri's offense. But yes, I'm going the under. But right now, I'm a bit concerned, hoping that Georgia don't cover the total by themselves.
We get LSU at number 2, Alabama, according to the college football playoff rankings. Alabama won 9 of their last 10 against LSU there. They're favored by 28.5 at home. The total here, 66. BMAC, you like LSU in this to cover. Why?
It's a rivalry game, and I know LSU, they have a lot going on the staff, on the team. Guys not healthy, guys not playing. Of course, getting ready for a new coach, with Coach O leaving after this season. But this is a rivalry game. You're getting 28.5. 28.5 on the road. I got to take LSU. I got to. At some point in time, pride will show up, and we saw pride show up. Great time with the highlight. Remember this ball game? I mean, Florida, I think they were a 14.5 point favorite or something like that. I'm sorry. Yeah, they were a 14.5 favorite against LSU. And guess what LSU did? They didn't just cover, they won the ball game. So I believe the pride will show up for LSU. It is not about winning because I don't think they have a shot in winning. But you're telling me LSU getting 28.5. They still have some motivation left there on that roster. So this is a huge opportunity to provide some misery for their arch rival in the Alabama Crimson Tide. So give me 28.5 and go Tigers.
There you go. I like the Edo impression by B-Mac there. He made a really compelling case. Almost makes me scared of my pick, which is why I gave Alabama to cover, but I like the over better. I do think Alabama has so much firepower on offense, but I do think their defense is not in the same caliber as Georgia's, where you could see some garbage time points, which will push the over absolutely. But what makes me nervous is that also could push that 28.5 number to a point where it covers. So I've given Bama, say, lay the 28.5 because I am concerned about LSU's mental state. How invested are they early, especially if Alabama jumps out to an early lead, which I think they will. But ultimately, I think you'll see Bryce Young put up big numbers. I think you'll see Brian Robinson put up big numbers. I think you'll see Alabama offensively put up big numbers. But Max Johnson coming off his worst game against Ole Miss, that last game they had when they lost, they're getting healthy off a bye. I think they figure out some ways to put up points in the second half to push that over. So I give Alabama lay the 28.5. Cautiously-ish, but I like the over here, over the total.
All right, the over, the better play there, according to Danny Kanell. This next one's very interesting. We get Liberty at number 16, Ole Miss. That means the return of Hugh Freeze to Oxford since resigning back in 2016. Now, he says he's excited to go back. He's just going to choose to remember the nice memories there. It's a very nice spin on it. Ole Miss favored at home by 9.5. The total here, 67 in a hook. Danny, what's your play?
So I think Ole Miss comes limping into this game, both figuratively and literally. They are banged up, including Matt Corral, their quarterback, who's coming off his worst performance against Auburn last week, where he was held in check. And I think all of these carries are taking its toll on him. He's still the leading rusher, and this team has been through a gauntlet. On the other side, you've got Liberty, who has had this game circled all season long. Hey, we get to go do this versus an SEC opponent. We can go to Oxford and shock the world and win this game. I don't think they shock the world, but I do think they cover the number. Ole Miss hasn't been able to stop anybody all season long. I don't think they're going to stop Malik Willis either. So I think Malik Willis in a high-scoring game, that 67.5 scared me some. I think it'll be a higher-scoring game, but I do think Liberty will keep it around a touchdown. So I'll go ahead and take Liberty in the point.
It's hotty-toddy time. Did I say it right? Hotty-toddy?
Yeah.
That's what they say, right? Hotty-toddy. It's hotty-toddy time. I understand Matt Corral. He's beat up. You know, he has an ankle issue. It's not quite like Carson Wentz's ankles from weeks ago, but he has an ankle ailment. But he's going to be fired up. He's trying to get right back in that Heisman conversation. And you better know something about Lane Kiffin. This is a personal game for Lane Kiffin. Yes, Hugh Freeze was once there on the sideline coaching Ole Miss, but guess who's coaching now? The Lane train. So you better believe he's going to try to stick the knife in and just twist it around clockwise a little bit and counterclockwise, just to make Hugh Freeze understand and realize I'm a better coach than you. So give me 9.5 in favor of Ole Miss. One thing about Ole Miss throughout the course of the year, when they're playing against conference opponents, they don't cover. But when they're playing against non-conference opponents, they cover. In the last 5 games against non-conference opponents, the ATS-wise, they're 4-0-1. One tie. So they do a great job in covering when they're not playing against SEC opponents. I like Malik. But when you look at what's surrounding him, he's going to need a lot of help for 4 quarters. I don't know if he will have what it takes, not to mention his defense being able to slow down Matt Corral and the Rebels offense. I don't see that happening. So give me 9.5 in favor of Ole Miss.
B-Mac, what do you think about this next one? You get number 17, Mississippi State at Arkansas. They're both 5-3, but much different records when it comes to conference play there. But it is the unranked Razorbacks who are favored at home by 5. The total is 56. What do you think, B-Mac?
I'm staying away from the spread. Something about this spread scares me. I love the total. I love the over. One thing about Mississippi State over the last few weeks, structure-wise, they're starting to generate a little rushing attack, just a little bit, more so than what we've seen in weeks past, especially with Coach Leach. Not to mention Will Rogers. I mean, last week, he almost completed 100% of his passes. I think he had a completion percentage of like 93 or something like that. Crazy video game-like numbers. I don't expect to see the same success, but you better believe that did something to his confidence. It's going to boost the morale of the offense, and Will Rogers will continue to have a pretty good day against the Razorbacks. And also, too, when you look at what Arkansas has on the offensive end as well with Jefferson and the crew, they're going to score points. So I think for me, I feel more comfortable taking the total and taking the over in this ball game than the spread, and that's the way I'm going.
I like the way you're thinking. I would lean towards the over as well, and I think this line stinks is what essentially you're saying because, hey, the ranked team is the underdog. This doesn't make much sense, and usually the books know what they're doing. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the bait here. I don't know if it's a smart play, but I'm going to go ahead and take Mississippi State. I like what I've seen from this team. I think their wins have been more impressive as of late. 2 of their 3 wins last 3 wins have come against top 25 opponents. They beat Kentucky last week in pretty dominant fashion, and their defense is one of the better defenses against the rush. So I think you'll see them hold the Arkansas rushing game in check, but I do think KJ Jefferson and company will put up some points. But guess what? You start getting into a shootout with Mississippi State, they're going to be just fine. That's the space they live in. You mentioned Will Rogers, 92.3% completion rate last week. That was an SEC record. He's got 7 300-yard games in his career at Mississippi State. Guess who that ties? One Dak Prescott, who did it, when he was playing there before he was on the Cowboys. This Mississippi State team is pretty good, so I think they get the cover. I'll take the number, and I like the way B-Mac's leaning, too, with that over.
We get Tennessee heading to number 18, Kentucky. Kentucky started the year 6-0. They've dropped their past 2. Now, granted, one of those was to Georgia, so that's a little bit expected there. This one's basically a pick-em. They're favored by 1 at home. The total here is 57. What you think?
I'm going to go ahead with a team that I think is hotter, and that's Tennessee. I think Tennessee, I believe in them more, and Josh Heupel's done an outstanding job, and you kind of wonder what would have happened if he would have started Hendon Hooker, who's been on fire from the get-go, as opposed to go with Joe Milton at the start of the season and then benching him after the game against Pitt, which they lost. Kentucky, I do think, is fraudulent. They got off to a hot start. Everybody started buying into them. They did have a nice win against Florida, but that game was marred with, mistakes by Florida, penalties. Florida made a ton of mistakes in that game, and I think Tennessee comes in with more momentum to this game. I think Hendon Hooker will have a nice performance in this one. And I don't trust Will Levis, who's coming off a 3-interception performance of his own. He is a turnover machine on the year. So I think Tennessee will be able to put up points on this Kentucky defense. So give me Tennessee.
Rocky Top, Tennessee.
Yeah.
I think that's how the Rocky Top song goes. I'm sorry if I butchered it, but forgive me. I'm going Tennessee as well. I'm going with the better quarterback. And the bye week came at a very, very important time for Tennessee. Hendon Hooker was dealing with some injuries. They played a lot of ball games. And being able to get that bye week right when they got it was much needed. I think he's going to be refreshed. He's completed around 68% of his passes, 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's been the difference maker for their team in totality in the structure he has provided. And the betting trend, Tennessee, they're 11 and 3 ATS in the last 14 meetings. And when you look at what they've been able to do in Kentucky, Tennessee, they're 4-0 ATS in their last 4 games in Kentucky. So they've done nothing but cover when they play against Kentucky, especially when they play Kentucky in Kentucky. So me personally, when you look at the quarterback play and the betting trends, I go Tennessee.
We get a song there and we get agreement, which is always nice. I like it, no matter if it was right or not, BMAC, because I'm not sure either. All right, recapping their picks there. They both like the under in Auburn at A&M. They also both like the under there with Mizzou at Georgia. They're on opposite sides when it comes to LSU at Alabama, although Danny said he's leaning to Alabama to cover. He's not entirely sure there, but they do both like Tennessee to cover as well. Coming up, we have Michigan State and Kenneth Walker III traveling to Purdue. We'll get picks for that game and other ranked Big Ten games. That's next. Welcome back into CBS Sports HQ, getting you ready for Week 10 in college football. Hard to believe we're already here taking a look at some of the notable Big Ten ranked games we've got coming up. Of course, a lot of interesting things going on after Michigan State and Michigan went head-to-head last weekend. Michigan State getting the win there, and then poor Chris Hassel. What are we going to do about Iowa for Chris Hassel? I know they didn't even make the full screen, which is really bad. But we are going to talk about that game because they are ranked. Let's welcome back Danny Kanell, Bryant McFadden here. We get number 3, Michigan State. Michigan State, number 3. What'd you think about that?
I like it. Hey, they're
like
undefeated. That win was awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, they deserve it.
All right, they're at Purdue, coming off a huge win over Michigan. Michigan State favored by 3 on the road here. The total is 54. BMAC, what direction are you going here?
You know what? I'm a bit concerned, guys.
Okay.
This line is only 3. It's only 3, right? Michigan State, a signature-like win for Mel Tucker a week ago at home, playing Purdue. Purdue has been serviceable. They've done some pretty good things, but they're only given 3. I'm a bit concerned, but you know what? I'm taking the bait, just like Danny did a few segments ago. I'm taking Michigan State. Kenneth Walker, he will continue his Heisman campaign, one of the best running backs in college football. If Michigan State is for real, they take care of their business. Not just winning, but covering. Good teams win ball games. Great teams cover. They covered last week. They covered quite a few ball games throughout the course of this season. And I think they're trending to being that for real cover-like team when it comes to the gambling side of things. So I'm taking Michigan State. Even though I'm a bit concerned, it seems a bit fishy, I'm going to take it. I'm going to see how real it is. Give me Michigan State.
Amanda, you know what it is called when you come off a big win and everybody's telling you how
Hangover. We got a
great you are.
hangover.
This is the ultimate. I mean, they're burning couches. They're kicking in cars in East Lansing. It was awful.
Not Lubbock. I mean, don't act like you're in Lubbock.
I know. It was bad. I think everybody's telling them how great they are. They're looking at the rankings and saying, hey, we're feeling great about ourselves. Everyone's telling you how good you are. This is Mel Tucker's worst nightmare. You've got to try to motivate this team, and yet they're looking and saying, this is Purdue. We can beat Purdue, but Purdue has been playing the role of spoiler this season, and I think they do once again. I wouldn't even mind if you put a little money line sprinkle on this one for Sparty. I think Peyton Thorne is struggling a little bit. He's thrown an interception in 3 games in a row. He had 2 picks against Michigan, and as much as I love Kenneth Walker III, at some point, some team is going to make them one-dimensional. Maybe that one dimension is only 100 yards rushing or only one touchdown because he is that good. But I think Purdue might be able to force that hand. The other thing, Aiden O'Connell, the quarterback at Purdue, is leading the Big Ten in completion percentage, leading the Big Ten in yardage. He can put up some points on this Michigan State defense. So give me the Boilermakers and also the over in this game. And watch out, I'll put Michigan State on upset alert.
I'm going to see what you have to say about a hangover when it comes to Michigan here in about 2 picks.
Yeah.
We get number 5, Ohio State at Nebraska here. Ohio State eking out that win against Penn State. The Buckeyes favored by 15 on the road. The total here is 64 and a hook. B-Mac, what's your play in this game?
Buckeyes, give me Ohio State. I think seeing what happened with the most recent playoff rankings, having Ohio State right outside the top 4, they understand and know what they need to do. It's not just winning. They need style points. They will provide style points in this weekend's matchup. They didn't get a chance to cover the spread last week against Penn State, but against Nebraska, a team that has been very, very inconsistent, up and down, emotional roller coaster. C.J. Stroud is going to put up prolific-like numbers to his pass catchers. Defensively, they're starting to come around, and I love the Russian attack that has emerged over the last few weeks as well. So laying 15 to Nebraska, I love Ohio State in this matchup.
Oh, B-Mac, you're a Florida State guy. I thought you learned your lesson last week. You're smarter than that. Hey, Amanda, I got to tell you something, because last week doing the college football pregame show, and B-Mac and Akeem, I took Penn State getting the points, and they both, they were like, how could you do that? And I took the under, and Akeem was like, how can you do that? Ohio State's going to walk off the bus, and they're going to score all these points. Guess what? I was right.
Congratulations.
Because the schedule now is much tougher than it was for about that 4 or 5 game slate. And Nebraska, even though they have a 3-6 record, the one thing they've been doing is they have been fighting for their head coach, Scott Frost, who is fighting for his job these last couple games. I think Ohio State wins, but I think it's about a 2-touchdown win. I think Nebraska can make this game ugly enough, can put up enough of a fight defensively to at least slow down Ohio State's offense somewhat, where you can keep them within that 2-touchdown lead. And I also think Adrian Martinez has been having quietly a pretty solid year for the Cornhuskers. So I think you take Nebraska playing at home. It's one of the best home atmospheres in the country. I think that lifts them up. So go ahead and give me Nebraska in this one at all those points.
Okay, B-Mac, we don't always get to grace us with your presence in this show. I want to explain to you that Danny has 2 versions of a hangover. You win, you have a hangover. You lose, you have a hangover. So in this next game, and B-Mac, you don't drink, so you don't know any of this. We get Indiana at number 7 Michigan. Michigan coming off that loss. According to Danny, they're going to have a hangover. They're favored by 20, though. The total here is 51. How does Michigan respond?
They're going to bounce back like a round ball. Clearly, easily, they're bouncing back. Michigan, listen, the committee still like Michigan a little bit. Upset, basically an upset last week to Michigan State. Guess what? They're still in the thick of things when you look at the playoff seeding. They realize that. We squandered a big opportunity away last week. Let's not do that. Don't play around. Let's take them out in deep water and drown them in the first quarter. And that's what they're going to do against Indiana. Indiana, no conference wins yet this season, have a freshman quarterback who's going through his growing pains. Michigan will get back in the right element this week, not just in reality, but gambling as well. They're going to cover this 20 points easily. Give me the Wolverines.
I think you could see some hangover, Amanda, but I think Michigan is just fine in this matchup. The 20.5, the 20 is a big number to me, so I think they get it. I would lean towards where B-Mac is going. But you know what? And he alluded to it. Indiana is on their 3rd quarterback of the season, and it's a freshman who they weren't planning on playing this season. I think it could be a rough day, as it's been a rough year for Tom Allen's squad. The Hoosiers just have not been the same. They're going to try to get Stephen Carr going, but it'll be no match for the running back duo of Corum and Haskins for the Michigan Wolverines. So I lean towards B-Mac's way laying the points, but I really like the under because I think Michigan, slow, methodical, down the field, run game, and their defense, I think, shuts down Indiana. So I think they win, but I think it's a lower scoring affair. So I'll take the under in this one.
We have Illinois at number 20, Minnesota. PJ Fleck getting a 7-year contract extension just happened today. Minnesota really in control of their own fate right now in their division. They're favored by 14.5. The total here is 44. Both of you like the under in this game. Why?
Because it's going to be gross. It's going to be gross football. It really is. I mean, we saw what Illinois wants to do when they had pulled off the upset maybe of the year and go to Penn State in that 9 overtime. I'm not going to call it a thriller. I refuse to call it a thriller because the game itself was gross. But you remember the screen grabs that were going around the internet with Illinois shuttling in all these offensive linemen and tight ends and big backs, condensing the formation and saying, we're just going to run it all day long. That's what they're going to try to do. Minnesota's trying to get physical as well. So I think this will be a traditional, old school Big Ten slugfest with not much scoring at all. So give me the under all day. I don't trust either one of these teams. Minnesota, it's egregious that they were even ranked in the top 25, so I don't trust them. Give me the under all day.
I'm right there with you with Minnesota being ranked in the top 25. That's a big-time surprise, but I'm going under, following some of the points you just mentioned, talking about the motion of the offense, how slow it will be. I think it caters to both sides to kind of slow things down and try to run the football and wait for the opposing offense to provide a mistake for you to capitalize on. And when you look at Illinois defensively, they limited opponents to 24 fewer points in the last 6 straight ball games. So quietly, their defense has been doing a real good job in not allowing a lot of points on the scoreboard. So when you look at this number, a very, very low total, but I do believe it will hit the under.
I don't think Chris Hassel is left for the day, so let's all speak to him right now. We get number 22, Iowa at Northwestern, back-to-back, in his words, horrible losses. Lost to Purdue, you had to bye to get it together. Then you lose to Wisconsin here. He had 130 unread messages after that game, said he refused to check his text messages. Iowa is favored here by 12. The total is 40.5. What do you think?
So I bet a lot of those messages actually came from Brady Quinn. I bet that's where they came from.
He doesn't
like
answer,
half
like
of them.
I tried checking in on him.
Right.
Nothing.
I don't trust Iowa at this point. From what we've seen, Spencer Petras, I think, is a liability, but I don't trust Northwestern at all. What I do think we get right is I think Tyler Goodson, the running back for Iowa, actually has a good game, which opens things up a little bit for Iowa's offense. Wisconsin is one of the better defenses in the Big Ten, and that game was ugly and they only scored 7 points. But I think they'll be able to score more in this game against Northwestern. And I think you also throw in the mix, you could get a pick six, some special teams touchdown. So as crazy as it may sound, I'm going to take the over here in a Big Ten game, which I usually try to steer away from. But I think you'll see more points than people are expecting.
No. Believe what you've been seeing so far this season. You've been seeing low-scoring affairs from both sides, pretty good defensive play from both sides. That will continue in Northwestern in this matchup. I don't trust either offense. I'm right there with you. I don't trust either offense. I don't trust either quarterback. But one thing I trust from both sides, defense, especially red zone defense. I can easily see a 13-16 type of ball game. And when it happens, I'm going to be like, yeah, Danny, you remember what you said on Wednesday? Today is Wednesday, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it is Wednesday. Remember what you said on Wednesday? Yeah. Take the under. And when you look at historically speaking about these matchups in between these two teams in Northwestern, in the last 7 ball games in Northwestern between the Hawkeyes and Northwestern, the under is 6-1. They always hit the under in Northwestern. So I'm following that betting trend, and I'm following what I've seen from both sides. Take the under. It's getting cold outside, so you got to get under covers anyway.
We live in South Florida. It is not cold here. We all know that. It is not cold here. Okay, 10 weeks of doing this. I hadn't skipped a game. It finally happened there, BMAC, if you're wondering. We're going to go back to number 21, Wisconsin at Rutgers there. Wisconsin favored by 11.5. The total here is 37.5. BMAC, what's your play?
First of all, you see the total? 37.5.
Yep.
I'm like, why we get ready to watch Pee Wee football or something where it's quarterback right, quarterback left? 37.5 in a college game? I'm staying all the way away from that. I don't even want to touch that or trust that. But I'm taking Wisconsin. I'm taking the Badgers. I trust them more than I trust anything coming from Rutgers right now. Rutgers have really been a bad team, especially on the offensive end. They haven't scored more than 20 points in any conference matchup so far this season. I expect to see that trend stay intact. So give me the Badgers.
That stat you gave is why the point total is so low, because Rutgers has been so bad. You know who else has been bad offensively? And I know they had a 27-point outburst of scoring last week against Iowa. They are not scoring many points either. I think the 37.5, I'm with you. I would lean towards the under, but it's so low. It's like, how do you do that? But I actually disagree with you at the birthplace of college football in Piscataway, New Jersey. I think you'll get their best effort against Wisconsin, another team in the Big Ten that I have no clue how they're ranked when you look at their losses and the fashion with which they've lost and who they've beaten. Graham Mertz, he's not throwing the football at all. 8 attempts a couple weeks ago, 11 of 22 this past week, and a very pedestrian performance. I think he had 105 yards passing. They are committed to the run game. This game will be slow. I don't think that you'll see Iowa get the cover here on the road. So I'm going to take the surprising one here in the Rutgers squad at home, getting their best effort against Wisconsin.
I am not going to remember what game it was, but I know there was a total of 36 at some point. And
that was the Iowa-Wisconsin game last week, and it went under, which is crazy.
Exactly.
They're begging you to go over. That's why I lean under.
Kiwi football, as BMAC puts it. All right, let's recap their picks there. Michigan State at Purdue. BMAC says he is taking the bait with the Spartans. He's going to take the 3 there. Danny on the opposite side. Ohio State at Nebraska. They're on opposite sides in that one as well. But where they do agree, Illinois at Minnesota, they both say take the under. Coming up, we got Wake Forest undefeated top 10, but it will be a tough test for them this weekend against North Carolina. We'll see what BMAC and Danny have to say next. We've got AAC and ACC ranked teams. Oh, look, Florida State made it, Danny. Congratulations. You made the full screen.
Yeah.
I was waiting to see. And BMAC, yes, and BMAC. Danny's just been very, very upset this whole season. We'll see how BMAC's been feeling. We also get Wake Forest still undefeated in the top 10 for the first time at North Carolina. A lot of good ones. Let's get some picks on them. So we'll start with Tulsa at number 6. Cincinnati, number 6. Cincinnati favored by 22.5 here. The total 54 and a hook. BMAC, what you think about Cincinnati at number 6 and in this game?
Well, not surprised to see where they're located in the most recent playoff rankings. Of course, they have an outside shot, but it's really an outside shot. And I think they understand that, and they will embrace it and try to make it right this weekend by covering. I mean, Cincinnati started off the season on fire in covering the spread. Last few weeks, they've been struggling a little bit. Playing against Tulsa, a team that will be motivated in this matchup on the road. Cincinnati being at home. I love the Bearcats to cover. 22.5 is a large number. We've seen them been able to cover that number so far this season, more than none. You look at some of the outstanding NFL-like players. I love Desmond Ridder. I think he will be playing on Sunday. I love some of the guys on the defensive end, especially in the secondary. Cincinnati will get back on track when it comes to the betting terms and covering this spread. So give me the Bearcats laying 22.5.
I'm going to go the other way. I don't love it as much as I love the total. I'm going to take Tulsa because you mentioned Cincinnati, like, hey, needing style points. They needed them against Tulane. They needed it against Navy, and they didn't get them in either performance. I still like the Bearcats. Their defense is sensational. I think they'll hold Tulsa to an extremely low number. Tulsa only had 3 points at halftime last week and a loss to Navy. So I lean towards Tulsa. I don't love it because I haven't seen Cincinnati at their best, but what I do think you get is Cincinnati's defense showing up because they've shown up every single week. So I'll take the under in that one. I like the total, under the total, way more than I like Tulsa as the dog here. Game day is going to be there. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere at Nippert. The fans, crowd's going to be wild. But I just wonder if that emotion affects them a little bit early in this game, a little bit of a slow start, which, again, helps the under.
I like emotion, and my producer Jack wanted to know if I was emotional about Cincinnati being at number 6. No, I'm very happy for them. We get number 9, Wake Forest at North Carolina. Wake in the top 10 for the first time in school history, 8-0 for the first time in program history, but it is North Carolina who is favored in this one by 2.5. The total 76. Get a big number there. What do you think about all this?
Every season we come into this point. We had the rankings last night. Everybody gets fired up, and it's like, oh my gosh, you're up in arms. Michigan State is where they are, and Cincinnati's where they are, and Oklahoma's down lower than we think, and we got a Wake Forest team. I was like, oh, how could they be this high, or they're not ranked properly? And then guess what? Everything settles, and everybody gets weeded out. I think, unfortunately, for the Demon Deacons, this is the week that they get weeded out. I hate it. I hope I am wrong on this one because it's the lone ACC undefeated team remaining. But Chapel Hill, an incredibly tough place to play. I think this will be an absolute shootout, similar to what we saw when Wake Forest played Army and they had to drop 70 points to get that win. Both of these teams have been in shootouts. Both of them have high-flying offenses. Sam Hartman's been incredible for Wake Forest. We knew about Sam Howell coming into the season, who's actually running the football a ton for the Carolina Tar Heels, but neither defense is lights out. So I'm going to say in a shootout game in Chapel Hill with a crowd that's going to be packed saying, hey, we have an opportunity here, I think Wake Forest goes down and the Tar Heels cover in a high-scoring affair.
That line is so high, 76. I don't think the Tar Heels basketball team playing against the Demon Deacons would score more than 76 in a basketball game. Matter of fact, if they play twice a year, so I don't think 2 games combined, they might score 80 points. So seeing how high that line is and looking at the line, they're undefeated. Wake Forest is. They're getting points. Wow. Do I want to take that? Do I want to take North Carolina? Something is up about this ball game. So I wouldn't be surprised to see an upset, right, with North Carolina win this ball game. But Danny, it's 76 points. At some point in time, pride has to show up for the defensive players. Pride has to show up for the defensive staff on both sides. And in the words of Coach Mickey Andrews, bow your back up and fight. Get in the fight. I don't care if you don't connect. Just swing, and hopefully you connect by accident and knock someone out. So you know what? At some point in time, the defense is going to show up. I got to take the under. It's just too high for me. 76 is a bit high for me. I don't want to take the spread either side, but I'm taking the total and I'm taking the under. At some point in time, somebody got to bow their back up and play some defense and try to fight. Take the under.
He just said it with such conviction there.
I like it.
Okay, we get number 19, North Carolina State at Florida State. NC State favored by 2.5 on the road. The total here, 56.5. Danny had a bad beat with Florida State last week, so B-Mac, you can start in this one.
Oh, Danny, I'm sorry. Listen, so many people had a bad beat with Florida State last week. They had the 9.5 and had the under. And man, you had to lose 33 yards for Clemson to score a touchdown in the final play with 4 seconds left. Danny, I'm sorry. I don't even want to bring it back. I don't even want to. I'm sorry. I said too much already. Let me attack the current situation, Florida State, NC State. This might be a little money line sprinkle. You might want to go ahead and sprinkle something in the money line with Florida State. But me personally, I'm taking the under. Defensively, both teams have been up and down. Defensively, though, for Florida State, they play pretty good football at home, and they run the ball well offensively. They utilize the clock. The ground and pound game has been the best thing they've done offensively. They will continue to do so against a very, very feeble defense, to say the least, coming from NC State. But I don't expect to see an explosion of points from either side, so I love the under in this matchup.
All right, B-Mac, I'm going to go ahead and take the Noles here. I like them with the points, and I love the way you're thinking with the money line sprinkle, except I don't like where you're thinking on the total. I think Florida State offensively is getting better and better. Jordan Travis, who was at one time really a one-dimensional quarterback, they've opened it up somewhat. Now, you're not going to confuse him for somebody out there like a Bailey Zappi at Western Kentucky. They're not throwing it all over the yard, but I think they can put up some points. Now, here's the thing about NC State. Devin Leary, their quarterback, one of many in the ACC. The ACC is the quarterback league. 21 touchdowns against just 2 interceptions against throughout the year. I think he gets off to a pretty strong start. He's had solid games, even in their losses. He had in their win against Clemson, which was their signature win of the season. He had 4 touchdown passes in that game, 2 of them in overtime, but I still think he'll be able to put up some points. So I like Florida State here at home, but I also like the over to get pushed here as well.
We have number 25 Pitt at Duke there. Pitt coming off that loss at home to Miami. They're not happy about that, but they're favored by 21 in this one. The total is 64. What's your play?
This might be my favorite play of the weekend. Duke is bad. I feel bad. Like, David Cutcliffe is a great coach, but I think it's kind of coming to the end. I think you might see him step down at the end of the season. They have not been competitive in any game. I do think Pitt here comes in a little bit irritated, embarrassed off of that performance. Kenny Pickett, it wasn't his fault. I think he has a field day in this game. So lay the points. Don't even think twice about it. And then I also like the under because Duke is not going to put up against any points against this Pitt defense. So this is easy. Don't even think about it. Lay the points with Pitt and take the under.
I'm right there with you. Lockstep. Lay the points with the Panthers. They will put up more than 21 points. I think they'll beat Duke probably by 27 or 28 points. Yes, Duke is a very, very bad team. Their feet is already in the parking lot, meaning they're anticipating the season to end. So they basically, mindset-wise, let's get through the season and get ready for next year for the guys who will be returning. And last week against Miami, Pitt's defense has been pretty good. They had a lot of issues in the secondary, a lot of blown coverages that led to big-time plays for Miami. I do believe Pat Narduzzi and his staff will focus on the little things that provided big-time plays for Miami last week. They will play better, not to mention the team they're playing against, like Danny said, is a bad team. Lay the points in favor of the Panthers.
Guys, I'm going to recap your picks here, and I was going to go through all of them and read it, but you pretty much disagree on everything in this
not much
particular
lock
thing.
unity.
No,
for our Florida State guys.
Only place you guys agree. You both like Pitt there to cover the 21. Danny, you said he feels sorry for Duke, but other than that, you guys are on opposite sides. So the people at home, whomever you believe, go with that person. Coming up, Oregon, whose win over Ohio State apparently means everything, according to the committee. Well, they're at Washington. We're going to talk about that game and other Pac-12 and Big 12 games. That's next. Welcome back in. Getting ready for Week 10 in college football. Taking a look at some Pac-12, Big 12 ranked games. We have a smallest little grouping so far. Danny, what do you think about Oregon at 4?
I loved it because they were ahead of.
Of course you did.
Because they were ahead of Ohio State, who they beat in Columbus. But I do think you make a great point because Oklahoma, how many losses do they have? 0, 9 wins, 0 losses. That to me absolutely should have had them ahead of both of those teams.
You're sweet. I appreciate that.
I agree. I'm not lying. I'm not saying it just for you, but I agree. I think they got hosed.
All right, so let's talk about number 4, Oregon at Washington. The Ducks are favored by this one at 7 on the road. The total's 51. What do you think about the Oregon Ducks in this game? B-Mac?
I like Oregon to win. I think they understand what they need to do, which is win out, get to the Pac-12 championship game and win that as well to be able to have a legit shot to get into the playoffs. They have a better team when you look at what Washington has going on both sides of the ball, even though Oregon has been dealing with some injuries. But when you look at this line, I mean, they're laying a full touchdown. I'm a bit concerned with that line. So I'm taking the total, I'm taking the under, and here's why. Defensively, when you look at what Oregon has, one of the best defensive players in college football in Kayvon Thibodeau, he's going to have his way against the offensive lineman, whoever it is trying to block him, not to mention the second level guys as well. They're going to harass the Huskies. Offense has been up and down to say the least. So I think they will have success. And Anthony Brown has been a bit inconsistent, the quarterback from Oregon. I don't know what's going on, but he's not seeing the football field as well as he did early in the year. So I have my concerns with their offense. And then looking at the betting trend, I mean, the under is 4-0 in the Huskies' last 4 conference ball games. And then also when we look at the last 5 matchups between these two teams in Washington, the under is 4-1 as well. So me personally, when we look at the betting trend and some of the concerns that I have with both offenses, I take the under.
I look at this game and I hear what you're saying. I lean towards the over. I didn't love it. I think you make a pretty compelling case there. But I actually do like Washington here as the home dog, getting a full touchdown in a rivalry game. That to me screams, hey, something's up here. And Washington has some extra motivation. Remember last year, they actually won the North, but had to sit home and watch Oregon play for it because their season was canceled because of COVID issues. I think there's some bad blood in this rivalry. Jimmy Lake's taking shots at Oregon about calling out the academics. I think this game will be closer than that touchdown spread. So give me the Huskies here. I lean towards the over, but I like Washington better as the home dog.
Number 11, Oklahoma State at West Virginia. Both of these schools coming off some decent wins last week. The Cowboys are favored by 3. The total 49. Your play.
I'm going to take West Virginia. I'm going to take the home team here. At this point in the season, have we learned anything about the wild, wide open nature of college football?
No.
Teams that we think are good aren't that good. Oklahoma State traveling, do I trust them in this spot? West Virginia is coming off some really impressive wins, playing with a lot of confidence. I think this place will be ruckus. I think they'll be out there making a ton of noise. So give me the Mountaineers playing at home and the 3 points.
No, not so fast, my friend. Give me the Cowboys. Jalen Warren, one of the best running backs clearly in the Big 12. I love his game. I think he's going to have a huge day. Defensively, they're doing some pretty good things as well. Betting-wise, the Cowboys have been extremely hot. I mean, they're 6-0 ATS in the last 6 games overall, home or on the road. They've done a great job in covering, almost similar to the professional Cowboys and the Dallas Cowboys and how hot they've been when you look at the ATS as well. So I got to ride with the Cowboys in this matchup. It's going to be a very difficult situation to be in, the atmosphere. But based on what I've seen so far this season, like I said, 6-0 in the last 6 ball games ATS, they've done a real good job in covering. So I'm going to keep it with that trend and take the Cowboys. Number
12, Baylor at TCU. Baylor, of course, making a push for the Big 12 championship. TCU in search of a new head coach there. The Bears are favored by 6.5 on the road. The total is 58. B-Mac, what do you like in this game?
Man, you just said it. Baylor, they're trying to make a push for a shot at the Big 12 championship, and they will continue that push against TCU. Unfortunately for TCU, some issues that are not football on the field related, losing their head coach and Coach Patterson, who's been a long time coach there for that university. Hearing the timing of that news clearly won't sit right with the players, and I think they will be a bit distracted. Not to mention Baylor has been really, really hot. I love what they're doing. I know they're playing on the road, but 6.5, basically a full touchdown. I love Baylor to be able to cover this spread.
I'm with you, B-Mac. We are in lockstep here. I think one of the travesties of this college football season was what TCU did to Gary Patterson. There is a statue in front of the stadium. He built this program. I mean, similar to what Bobby Bowden did for you and I in Tallahassee for Florida State University. The only thing he didn't bring them was a national championship, but had them on the verge of the playoffs in that first year in 2014. So I wonder where this team's mental state is, but I do think this team is more about Baylor and the job that Dave Aranda's done. The offensive coordinator, Jeff Grimes, done a great job with Gary Bohannon at quarterback. I think Baylor rolls in this one, and I love the fact that it's under a touchdown at 6 and a hook because I think Baylor wins easily.
Gary Patterson there for 21 years. He had been there at TCU. Okay, let's recap this. Pretty much just one agreement yet again between BMAC and Danny. They both like Baylor on the road. They're in Fort Worth to cover the 6.5 at TCU. Beyond that, they're on opposite sides. We have one more group. It is the best of the rest in college football for Week 10. Taking a look at some of those games, you got Navy at Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, heavy favorite there. Fresno State coming off their big win against San Diego State. Danny, how late were you up?
I did not stay up for that. I wasn't in studio Saturday. I was in
thought
Friday.
You were in studio Friday. There you go. Okay, well, 2 a.m. Eastern. That's when it ended. Let's bring back in the guys to get their picks for this. We get Navy at number 10, Notre Dame, as I mentioned. The Irish, a big favorite, 20.5 at home. The total 47. BMAC, what's your play here?
Under. I think it's going to go well under the total, which is 47 points, and here's why. We know what Navy does offensively. They're going to ground it out and slow it out. They're going to slow motion you. You got to try to get critical stops, but they're going to use the entire clock for 4 quarters. I don't see that changing. So me personally, I don't expect to see a lot of possessions offensively for Notre Dame. When they do get their hands on the football, you know they're going to score. But based on the structure offensively coming from Navy, give me the under.
I hate all the disagreement, Amanda, between me and B-Mac.
No,
I'm not willing.
Like one and the same.
I know. I'm not willing to touch the spread, much like B-Mac, because Navy's a hard team to blow out and win, by 3 touchdowns. But this is a Notre Dame team that gave up 223 yards rushing to North Carolina last week. Now you're coming into a team like Navy who tries to cram the ball down your throat. I think Navy will have some success offensively, but I do think Notre Dame will be able to score on them with Kyron Williams and counter with Jack Cohn in that passing game as well. So I'm pushing the over on this one. Different sides.
I know.
Man, I don't like it.
This is what happens maybe when the Seminoles,
That's right.
Have that great of a season. I'm not really sure.
Hey.
No, I'm just kidding. We've all been there. We have Boise State at number 23, Fresno State. The Bulldogs favored by 5 at home in this. The total is 58.5. Danny, you were eyeing it. Or no, BMAC, you're eyeing the total in this one.
Once again, like I said, for you guys, it's not getting cold because you're in South Florida. But for other people who are not living in the state of Florida, guess what? It's starting to get a little nippy outside. So you got to get under the covers. I understand both offenses. Many people feel like it will be entertaining, this matchup between Fresno and Boise. But me personally, no. Defensively, they will show up. Give me the under in this ball game. Look at the total, 58.5. That hook is all I need for me to feel comfortable in taking the under.
I look at this one. I stayed away from the total on this one. And I look at Boise State as a 4-4 team, and you're like, how can they have a chance? They have lost some incredibly tight games, including blowing a 21-point lead early in the season against UCF. Then they lost to Oklahoma State at home. They've had some really tough calls, but they've also beat some really good teams, including BYU on the road. Boise State is built to travel. I think they go into Fresno and keep this game close. I love Jake Haener, the quarterback for Fresno State. He's one of the best stories of the country. His win against UCLA was awesome, but Hank Bachmeier's no slouch either, the quarterback for Boise State. So I think this will be a close field goal type of game. So for that reason, give me the Broncos.
All right, we have 1 minute left in the show. Number 24, San Diego State at Hawaii. San Diego State was undefeated up until last week. They are favored by 7.5. The total 45.5. That's as fast as I can go.
I think they come back angry. I think they win. Hawaii's not that good. One of their best wins came against Jake Haener when he had 4 interceptions, his worst game of the year. But I think San Diego State established the line of scrimmage, and I think it's a low-scoring game with a whole lot of defense. So give me San Diego State, the Aztecs, and the under.
Hey, I'm right there with you. San Diego State, run the football, run the football, run the football. They will be the most physical team on both sides of the ball in the trenches. I think they will need to do that to get right back in the winning column. So give me the Aztecs.
Ryan McFadden, Danny Kanell, we both appreciate it. Let's recap their picks here, the best of the rest. Again, just one major spot where they agree. That's taking San Diego State on the road at Hawaii to cover the 7.5. All right, that does it. We made it through 22 games.
Hardly any
Congratulations, my
unity.
friends. I know, it's okay. No confetti. We'll get it next week there. BMAC, thank you. Danny Kanell, we appreciate it.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.